Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome to the April 26, 2017 Legal and Finance Committee meeting. And this is a time for roll call and determination of quorum. Here. Thank you. And now for the adoption of the agenda. We have a motion to approve. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Now on to general public comment. I don't have any general public comment items, so I will open that and close that, and we'll go to the consent items 1 through 8, and I will open that to public comment, and we will start on item number 5 with Kathy Brewer.
Good afternoon. I'd like to first of all introduce you to Father Ed Witt, who is our parish pastor and an officer of the St. Isaac Jogues Church. He and I are here today to represent the Mother Butler Center and our request for community development funds. I'm Catherine Brewer, a retired CPA, and I hope you noticed the retired part, and Finance Committee Chairperson of the St. Isaac Jogues Church and the Mother Butler Center. And I'd like to just tell you a little bit about the Mother Butler Center. It was established in 1950 by the Red Cloud Indian Mission and was located near Omaha and West Boulevard, and was there to assist Native American transition from the reservation to city life. It was destroyed in 1972 flood. Our grant application is for the purpose of installing a French drain system to remove water flow that comes off of the flat roof on the Mother Butler Center. And it does present a drainage problem not only to us but the city as well. Our intention is to take the drainage from the downspouts and transfer it directly into a drain pipe that will then feed into a large underground pit that's filled with gravel and then covered with soil and sod. The water will then dissipate into the ground. An overflow pipe will serve in the event of any emergency levels of water. The Mother Butler Center is in need of community development funding due to critical financial needs to complete this project. Operations of the Mother Butler Center is a substantial financial commitment to our small church that serves predominantly very low to low income people in our area. As I pointed out, when the Mother Butler Center was relocated, it was relocated to Knollwood. I think most of you probably do know where the Mother Butler Center is. It's right across the street from the Carmike Theater, and it sits right on the edge of Knollwood, and it has a steep hill, and so we always are concerned with some water flow problems. We are passionate about maintaining the vital presence of the Mother Butler Center in the community of North Rapid in particular, but Rapid City in general, and our lesser impact of all the West River Indian tribes who utilize our facilities periodically. And I'd like to give you some examples of the programs that we have in our facility. The summer school feeding program for a 3-month period of time in the summertime feeds approximately 120 meals a day to children in the area for a total of about 7,500 meals served throughout the summer. Additionally, we host free community feeds that serve anywhere from 150 to 200 meals quarterly to anyone who comes. We advertise these events throughout Rapid City, and the participants are predominantly elderly adults from very low and low income households. We serve approximately 800 to 1,000 meals annually. But primarily, the Mother Butler Center is available for general purpose use. We have a 500-person capacity gymnasium and approximately 134 capacity conference room / dining hall. And between those two spaces is a commercial grade kitchen that serves meals from either side. Many of the activities that occur there are events like wakes, funeral receptions, memorial receptions, wedding receptions, sporting events, ball practices, conference, training programs, town halls, bazaars, rummage sales, free seasonal income tax services, and many other activities. These basic activities impact approximately 15,000 individuals in an annual period of time. Without grant funding from community development, it will jeopardize our ability to make the necessary water drainage improvements to the property to mitigate water damages to the building and for safety reasons as well. I'd just like to point out that with approximately 22,000 people impacted annually, the fixed asset of a French drain will last approximately 20 years. The cost of the investment by the community development funding would be at a cost of approximately 4 cents a person over that 20-year period of time. We appreciate your consideration and your recognition that this crucial funding helps us support the ongoing vital services that we render in our community. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. And our second speaker on the same item is Mike Smith and Susan Foley.
Sorry, that's Susan Fidel. My handwriting's awful.
Or Fidel. I am
apologize.
sorry. I knew that too.
Can I use this? Okay, my name is Mike Smith. I'm the Director of Program Advancement and Facilities at Youth and Family Services. And
Oh, I'm Susan Fidel. I'm the CEO of Youth and Family Services.
sorry, I should have warned you. Okay. So, as you may or may not know, Youth and Family Services, we intend to construct a two-story building that's going to be 68,000 square feet attached to our existing building at 120 East Adams. Our existing building is here, and it houses our Child Development Center and our Girls Incorporated program. And our new design, we're going to have half-size gymnasium, and this wing is going to be for infants and toddlers and preschool children. And our second floor is going to house our Stronger Families program, our fatherhood program, school-age program. We're going to have a greenhouse as well in there. This will allow us to serve 2,500 more children, needy children in this area. We hope to break ground in the spring of 2018. Part of this project requires that we regrade and resurface the alley that goes east to west right behind our building. Right now, this is the old food bank, and this is where our new construction facility's footprint is going to be. We've got an architect and a civil engineer's design to regrade the alley and divert the water this way through our soccer field and take it down through Herman Street and then divert it this way through Maple Street. Currently, one of the issues that we have with drainage, I think we get some of the Mother Butler water coming our way. We'll tax you on that later, but a lot of it comes through here and pools in our area back here. As it's harmful to our building. Slips, trips, and falls happen in the wintertime. And if you've ever been in this area, when it rains, you'll see that a lot of the water pools on Adams Street, and then it pools, it's like a river over on Milwaukee Street. So our civil engineer design is going to divert the water and other, to those areas. And we feel that it'll not only improve our site, but it'll improve our neighbor's site as well, because the water will go down the streets. One other aspect of this project that is kind of related to the regrading of the alley is that we're going to remove 32,000 square feet of asphalt in the middle, so we'll have more surface area for the surface water to drain down on our playground. Just recently, speaking with our architect and civil engineer, they thought that we could start this project in June and have it done by the end of the year.
We have gotten a more recent cost estimate from our architects, who actually are very, very reliable with their estimates, and they say that this total project will cost $287,000. We have a prior commitment from the CDBG funding for $100,000, and we did apply to receive an additional 2017 allocation to help us complete this project, but there was some confusion about our request, and so at least preliminarily we are not scheduled to get any additional funding, but we were hoping that we could encourage the council to think about some way that we might get some additional money for this project. And if we did, then we would definitely be able to finish the project by the end of this calendar year.
Thank you.
Thank you. And on the same item, Kent Haig for Freeland Ranch.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Kent Haig on behalf of Freeland Ranch, Inc., a nonprofit corporation. The purpose of my request here is that in the initial request or the go-around for 2017 monies, we had a request for $450,000, which at that point seemed feasible based on discussions with various parties and so forth. However, given the need that's popped up, and I think a lot of different very, very worthy causes and agencies have received much needed money, I had some further discussions with community development and kind of got the understanding, more close understanding of the matter. And the fact of the matter is, if you look in the original budget of our request, there was some in there for land acquisition, some in there for physical grading and groundbreaking, so forth. But there was also an amount in there, I believe, of $75,000 for additional engineering and professional fees of types. The engineering, by the way, much has been done. The block grant committee in 2016, spring of 2016, we received a $119,000 grant. That has essentially all been used. I think we have left $1,600 in there so far, because without assurance of further funding, I simply have not proceeded with spending additional funds until I know the other ones are there. My biggest request, or the crux of my request, is that the $75,000 would be essential to carrying on what I would call the specific and fine engineering. All the geotesting has been done, all the surveying of the entire area has been done, preliminary engineering and layout has been done. All the things that you can't see, even antiquities, archaeology testing and review has been done. So we're awfully close. And this would really quagmire the Freeland Ranch Affordable Housing Project if no further CDBG grants of any type are received. So we are requesting that a $75,000 grant be issued to get us to the point where we can start letting for bid, because this is a TIF project. And the page on the handout you've been given is a proposed TIF district that we think is reasonable. We think it includes a number of future growth areas, and also includes area that will receive improvements other than just on campus within the black border. So furthermore, I've discussed this with community development. Out of the last budget allocation or grant allocation, there was 240-some thousand allocated to community development office, I think it was, maybe. 248. Of that, we would request that $75,000 be granted to the Freeland Ranch Inc. Again, it's the nonprofit that will be building and developing out this area. That's the key to this project, in my opinion, is that when it sells a developed lot, when it sells a city lot, it will do so under this plan. It will do so for significantly less than average lots, but they'll be earmarked for affordable housing. And most people are quite familiar with the fact that you cannot build an affordable house or something that qualifies for that sector of the community without having land also that isn't a significant part of that budget. And when it does sell a lot, Freeland Ranch will retain most of those proceeds due to grants like this, other loans and so forth, and TIF loans. By the way, that is the proposed TIF district that we're be submitting today. But by retaining those funds, it's able to continue its development, but also endow a long-term maintenance, long-term operation to make sure this stays a top-notch flagship of the community as it's intended to be. This project has many phases, and the first phase has been submitted. That project plan has been approved, or excuse me, not project plan, the subdivision plan has been approved, preliminary subdivision plan. And the second phase cannot be submitted without the data from a traffic study in that area. And that's, again, just one of the costs that are going to be incurred in bringing it forward. Things like traffic studies, engineering, additional fine engineering for bidding and those types of things. But I'd respectfully request that you make a recommendation to the full City Council for a $75,000 grant to Freeland Ranch Affordable Housing Project.
Thank you. We have no more public comments. If there's anyone that wants to speak, let me know. Otherwise, I am going to close public comment. And we will move on to the agenda. We'll move on to the consent items 1 through 8, I believe. And Mr. Lorente.
I'd like to pull item 6, please.
Thank you.
Item 5.
Thank you, Alderwoman Modrick. So I need a motion for the balance.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to approve items 1 through 8, except for items 5 and 6. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Item 5 from Community Resources, approve request for FY 2016 and 17 Community Development Block Grants, Contingency Funds, Reallocation Recommendations. Alderman Lorente, you have the floor. Okay, then I'll take you out. Alderwoman Modrick, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got a question for Barb, if that's okay. Thank you. Barb, can I ask you a question on the allocations and any fund remainings? In one of the discussions, when Kent had mentioned that there may be some $248,000 that is newly available or maybe carryover, can you explain that number to me?
In the column under 2017 funds, the city had set aside in our initial approval of 2017 annual plan, had set aside the $248,000 as a contingency fund. We're bringing it forward for reallocation of those funds so that we have projects to move forward. It was the investment committee's decision, after reviewing all of the applications that we had at the time for the reallocation, to set those funds aside and recommend that you allocate them to my office for us to pursue doing some tiny house units on tax properties or purchasing infill lots to develop them, since we haven't had any developers step up to actually try to address those very lowest income folks. So on here, it's there for your approval to either allocate that fund, or you could choose to reallocate some of that or all of it to other projects.
So with that portion of it, is that a line item that we've got under the City of Rapid City Community Development of the 248,000 on our column? So it is in,
On the investment sheet, the sheet, yes, that's
that's
the
the
amount
number?
in there.
Okay.
That they are actually on, what their recommendation, the investment committees, was to allocate it to our department. And then we would oversee trying to get those units accomplished.
And that's not in a plan yet, it's just, it would be startup plan for the units that we want to get accomplished on the lands that we're trying to do for affordable housing?
Right, we couldn't start anything until you guys and the mayor would approve that for our department to do it.
Okay.
We have done research on properties that we could, that the city already owns and that we could acquire in determining, you know, what we can accomplish in this year. So I do have reservations about that full amount, us being able to accomplish that much in this year. I would say a lower dollar amount is more reasonable, but if you give all of that to our, we will go out and try our best to acquire that many properties. So.
If I could continue, just then, another question then. So with that opening statement there, does that, since there's 248,000 and there may be some room, we've got a request to finish up the project of YFS, where they've got the 100,000, it sounds like, already allocated. They need, is my number right, 187,000 more in order to complete the drainage issue? And so 187, if we brought that out of there, doesn't leave too much left, just under even the 75,000 being requested by the Freeland property, and then that leaves you at zero, and we start all over again next year, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. I think that's all for now, Barb.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm out of time, but I'll certainly, are you in the queue? Okay, I'll yield for the moment, thank you.
Mr. Laurenti, you have the floor.
Barb, if you would, please, I'm sorry. I tried to motion to you, but... And I'm hoping we'll get a motion after this brief question, but... So the $248,000 was allocated for demo and land acquisition for small affordable housing, right? It's set aside for that. So does the Freeland Ranch project fit into the mold of what the CDBG is wanting to do with those funds? I mean, has that been looked at from that angle?
Yes and no. Yes, his project does qualify and it does meet the criteria that we want for affordable housing for low-income people as a project. And we have funded the initial studies in last year's funding. And so what they would accomplish will. The people that we are looking to address with these funds would be at a much lower level than what they're pursuing, even though some of the apartments that they will put in will address 30% and below. It would be a small number. But we're going after those that are homeless. And there is no money initially, so we're looking to get our units down to the absolute bare bones costs with our program. And grant funds would, of course, be very important in that. But we are actually targeting the very bottom. With Freeland Ranch, they would be coming in at the 50, some 30, but that would be fewer numbers, 50 to 70 and above range. And then other developers are coming in. Everybody else who's come forward is at 80% and above. So it's different stratas of meeting that same goal.
So one last question. So the CDBG looked at Freeland Ranch and the 75,000 to sustain what they're doing there to keep that moving forward and decided that they did not want to allocate that, or was there not a decision made in that particular area?
At the time it was presented, it was the full amount that Mr. Haig indicated, the $450,000. That was what his application was for. And they did look at it at that, and their decision was not to fund it at that point. He is now requesting a much smaller amount.
Right. So my question to you is a hypothetical now. If you can't answer it, you can't. But if it were for the 75,000 to sustain this project, knowing that there is some of the housing that qualifies for what we're moving for or moving towards with these funds, do you believe that that $75,000 request would have been approved? Just your
I
own
can't
opinion.
answer.
Your
I
own
can't
opinion.
answer
Let me
that.
just ask for your opinion, not the entire committee or.
I would say,
I don't want to put you on the spot. You don't have to answer it.
I don't vote in those meetings, so I
Okay.
really couldn't say.
All right, very good. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Alderwoman Modrick, you have the floor again.
Thank you, Chair. Sandy, you had something to address, or Susan, you had something to address for us, maybe to add on with my question that I had asked about the additional funding attached to the current funding.
I did. We have raised some money for our building project, and if we could get some more from CDBG funds, we could probably throw in some of our money and then have enough to finish that project. So we wouldn't necessarily need the full $187,000. I just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you.
Mr. Laurenti, you have the floor.
I'm going to make a motion that we allocate from the 248,000, 75,000 additional for YFS and 75,000 additional for the Freeland Ranch project. And if I can get a second, I just want to. Thank you. And the reason I'm doing this is one, or I should say for two reasons. Both of these projects, I believe, are really important to the efforts that we as a city government are trying to encourage these people who are in lower stratifications of income so they can get into some affordable housing. And so I think both of these projects are a step towards that. What YFS is trying to do is extremely important to our community and the services that they provide. So if they can expand those services, as was previously stated by the group, I think we're doing our community a great service by supporting both of these. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Laurenti. We have no one else in the queue. We have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Item 6 from Community Planning and Development, approve resolution number 2017-0, a resolution approving revised number 2 project plan, reallocating project costs for tax increment district number 54 for property generally described as being located north of Mall Drive and west of Haynes Avenue, and our finance officer is in the queue. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At the request of the applicant, we are requesting a continuance to the next legal and finance. And in addition, the public hearing then at council on Monday night, the recommendation would be to continue that to the May 15th council meeting.
And if I can get someone to make that motion?
I move to continue.
Yes. It'll be a double motion, because you'll have to have the motion to, yes.
Correct, because we want to make sure that it's noted on the agenda on Monday night then that it is, the public hearing is continued until the 15th. And so by doing both things, then it will automatically
Then you have
happen.
notice.
Correct.
So, yes. Second. So we have a motion on the floor, and we have a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Now that is the end of the consent items. We will go on to the non-consent items, items 9 through 10. I will open public comment. We have no speaker forms. If anybody wants to speak, let me know now. I'm going to close public comment. We will move on to item number 9, introduction and first reading of ordinance number 6178, an ordinance to update campaign finance disclosure requirements by amending chapter 2.32 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. Alderwoman Modrick, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a question, if I could, for Joel.
Absolutely.
And I know we're aligning this with what our new state regulations came in with HB 1165. And in the new ordinance add-on that you have there, it does state that if a supplemental report may not be needed if there's been no change. Is that how I read that ordinance on the back end of this?
I would actually defer to Wade Nyberg from my office. He
Okay.
actually worked on this, so I would direct the question to him.
Thanks, Wade.
That's correct. When we first approved this, it was, I guess, before I even started working here, the reporting periods weren't specified, but the timeline was a little bit shifted. The city reports are due just a week before the election, so there's not much time in between. That's the reason, I guess, that the supplemental isn't required in this. We've not seen a lot of those in the past, and it seemed like it wasn't excuse me, it wasn't really necessary with that short of a window between the reporting period and the election.
So then the statement also, nothing's changed where it's right after before the election, after the election, August, and then we come into the January deadline for the annual. And
Correct.
on that, which is a new addition, because I know this year they didn't require the annual, so on that addition, it also made a statement, I believe in your ordinance, that if there is no change, then there's no need to file?
I think you would still need to file. It would just be the same thing as you filed the previous time.
And are there notices that'll go out municipal-wise for elected officials to remind them that they have a annual report due?
I defer to Pauline. I don't know if we send notices now or...
We typically do not send notices. It's usually one of those that we'll follow up if we don't have it, kind of thing. Typically in the election packets, it will outline everything that's due and when. Granted, this is something new, and so this first year we may do something just because it not only affects the people just newly elected, but it affects all elected officials, including the mayor. So it will probably just be a courtesy notice to everybody this year. But it won't be an annual notice all the time type of thing.
Since our elections have changed and we're not going to have one every year, would it be simple procedure to just send out those notices to elected officials since it's just a municipality, or maybe a notice that comes through those that are on the council? It's amazing what a year does with a memory, and you're following reports, and then that's just one that I could see easily could slip through the year.
I would actually want to check with the Secretary of State's office and see what kind of procedures they plan on doing. Much like the business licenses, we don't continually remind you that your business license is due. We used to send out renewal forms to contractors and such, and we don't do that anymore. It's one of those that, in those cases, it's your livelihood. You should know when it expires, just like you know when your driver's license expires. But I will probably check with the Secretary of State's office before I commit to anything.
Thank you. Thank you, Wade.
Thank you, and we don't have a motion on the floor. Have a motion? Second. And a second? No one else in the queue? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Item 10, introduction and first reading of ordinance number 6179, an ordinance to update references to the Convention and Visitor Bureau's related to Business Improvement District Number 1 by amending Chapter 3.24 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. Have a motion to approve and a second. No one wants to speak. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes.
Move to adjourn.
Have a motion to adjourn and a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much.